Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Quinn Ewers are the top three quarterbacks off the board in this 2024 mock draft Monday. Who else comes after them and what order do they land? We'll tell you next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout over with the Draft Network, as well as the host of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Guys, thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every single day, Monday through Friday, whenever we drop these episodes. Appreciate y'all for being our family and our every single day. Take pride in that, guys. But I can't talk about anything championship related without my guy, Mr. LSU, the champ himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on Twitter at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, senior draft analyst with the Draft Network, man, and 2019 national champ with those LSU Fighting Tigers, man. But you know why we're here? Myself, Damian Parsons, your dynamic duo, man. We are here to bring you that championship level content surrounding the NFL Draft 24/7, 365. Yes, we're in July and we're still flowing. Hey, that was rhyming right there, DP. I'm getting better at this intro thing, but man, listen, you know what today is. Today is mock draft Monday, and that's might be why I have the short shirt on, DP. I guess it's suns out, guns out, right? I'm feeling myself on this Monday morning, DP, mock draft Monday. One of my favorite things we do, right? We go through mock drafts. And so DP, I believe you're going to fire up, right? You're going to do the technology thing. This is week 3. I believe that you'll be able to kind of flow this thing. You're going to do the technology thing. We're going to pull up this mock draft and do what we do. Go through picks 1 through 10, talk about it, right? This is early on scenarios, right? Things that could happen, potentially happen, some of the prospects that are mentioned in this mock draft in certain positions, and just talk about if we disagree, right? Last week was Jordan Reed. This week we're transitioning to one of our guys over there. Was this one at Sports
Illustrated, Jack Borowsky.
Yeah, Zach. Yep. And we'll go through his and waiting on, and then DP will pull it up. So let's get this thing started.
Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Just post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. If you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see this, as it is pulling up right now. We're going to get into it. You know how we do it here. Starting off with pick 1. And number 1, we have the Arizona Cardinals staying put and selecting quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. And number 2, we have our first trade of the mock. The Los Angeles Rams trade up with the Arizona Cardinals, and they select quarterback Drake May from North Carolina. At number 3, Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting quarterback Quinn Ewers out of Texas. The Tennessee Titans at number 4 selecting Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. At number 5, we have offensive tackle Amarius Mims as OT1 out of Georgia to the Indianapolis Colts. Number 6, after the trade with the Rams, the Arizona Cardinals select Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. At number 7, the Chicago Bears, via the pick from the Carolina Panthers from the 2023 trade, NFL draft trade, they select edge rusher Chop Robinson from Penn State. At number 8, the Atlanta Falcons select defensive tackle Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. At number 9, the New England Patriots select offensive tackle Olu Fashanu from Penn State. And at number 10, Washington Commanders select offensive tackle Patrick Paul from Houston. Keith, what stood out to you?
I want to go to pick number 2, and I have a thought process and a question, right? The pick number 2, you have the Los Angeles Rams trading up to get Drake May, right? And this question / conversation revolves around, I don't want to say is it worth it or was it worth it, right? Because this was the team that everybody was critical of the general manager, I believe, Les Snead, of trading away all the first round picks, right? Like he traded away all the first round. It's like, man, your future is going to be so horrible. You know, you're going to suck for 10 years. And it doesn't appear if this happens, right? They didn't suck for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like last year, they weren't good, right? The last year they were bad, but the year before that, they won a Super Bowl, right? So you win a Super Bowl, you have a bad year. Then this year, I'm assuming, right? I don't know what position they're trading up from, but they're probably going to be an average team, right? Average to maybe bad. Let's say even if they
think they traded up from 6.
Okay, so they had a bad season, right? So that's 2 years of a bad season. But if Drake May is as advertised, you're right back on the plan of rebuilding this roster. So you have probably 2 years and you can be in a good situation. So I'm asking you, right? And I would ask our, people tapping in, our family, like, as a fan, would you be okay with that, right? Like we traded away our first round picks, we won a Super Bowl, and then now in a year or two, you're telling me I have one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL draft to rebuild my team and move forward.
Oh yeah, no, I would be happy with that, right? Because we see teams essentially selling the farm to basically win the Super Bowl, right? We see it in not just a Super Bowl, but even an NBA title, right? We see it all the time. Like the teams try to trade away young pieces and picks to get veterans, so forth and so on. If you win a title, like it pays off. Now it's all about, okay, what's the time difference from, okay, we won the title. How many years are we going to be bad? And if you're the Los Angeles Rams and you only had 2-3 bad seasons, and then you get Drake May, right? And you get to rebuild, and you have a quarterback that you can build around that's on a rookie deal and a rookie contract. Oh no, I think you should be very happy with that with that result.
Okay, who I'm ask you, like flipping on you. You've read all the picks and stuff. Which one stands out to you, DP, as a selection?
Right here, OT1, Amarius Mims, not Olu Fashanu, not Joe Alt, Amarius Mims,
And
not JC Latham.
Right. This is pretty cool, though, and I guess cool, and if that's the right way to say it, but I would say interesting, right? This is interesting because we just had this conversation, right, in our scouting notebook series about guys to circle, and his name came up, and I asked you, DP, and you were like, nah, like this is a dude, right? Like if he puts it all together, this guy can be a first rounder, and to see him at the top of this mock draft, like you said, above the rest of those guys is interesting, right? Like to see him as offensive tackle one.
Because especially for him, he will only have 1 year as a full-time starter, where Joe Alt would have been a starter for multiple years. You would have had at least 2 full years for Olu Fashanu as well, right? And if those guys, JC Latham, so if all those guys stay on par of what they've done already, or even play better, like for him to still be OT1 it means that, I mean, granted, he's 6'7", 330, moves well for his size, got long arms, all that good stuff. I get it. This was just the one that caught me off guard, and I think it's one of those. It also goes on brand a little bit with the Colts, right? The Colts are a team that, like, was it the RAS score, the RAS score stuff, like, what I'm saying? It's height, weight, athleticism, arm length. We saw that, like, outside of Josh Downs, almost all the picks they picked in the 2023 draft. We're high on that spectrum. So
when you think about it, right? The tight end from Virginia, right? He Jelani Woods, 6'7", Michael Pittman, big guy, Alec Pierce, right? Jonathan Taylor. Who else is on that list? It's a bunch of different
corners. They went Darius Rush,
Julius Brents, Darius Rush. So you're right, DP. Like this just been a trend, and they must have a very strict standard, right? Of you have to reach these measurables as a football player before we draft, because it's no coincidence. Like you look at it, the Colts probably have one of the biggest teams in the NFL, or right. they're striving to have one of the bigger teams in the NFL.
And the only outlier they have is Josh Downs, who they selected last year.
Right. And he just told me, and it was like, we just need something all the way different. So they gave Josh that opportunity, which I think is going to pay off for them, man, with him operating in the slot. But DP, that was picks 1 through 10, man. But we know we're gonna fire this thing up, get through picks 11 through 20, which I always say I like getting deep into the mock drafts, because that's when you see the crazy name pulls, and it's usually when I get a little angry, right? When I see things that I disagree with, man. So we're gonna fire this thing up. Coming up next, man, picks 11 through 20 from this mock draft.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you need to do is go ahead and set up your account, then add your job and add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. You have simple tools at your disposal, like screening questions, just to make sure and make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can prioritize quickly who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Job number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. At number 11, the Chicago Bears select cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. At number 12, the Green Bay Packers select another defender, safety corner hybrid Cooper DeJean from Iowa. At 13, we had the Las Vegas Raiders selecting defensive tackle Gabe Hall out of Baylor. At number 14, the Minnesota Vikings select tight end Brock Bowers out of Georgia. At number 15, the Denver Broncos select offensive tackle Jordan Morgan from Arizona. At 16, the New York Giants select defensive back Javon Bullard from Georgia. 17, the Detroit Lions select offensive tackle Brandon Coleman out of TCU. At 18, we have Pittsburgh Steelers selecting wide receiver Malik Neighbors from LSU. 19, we have Los Angeles Chargers selecting offensive tackle Joe Alt from Notre Dame. At number 20, another offensive tackle off the board to the Miami Dolphins, Anthony Belton from North Carolina State. Keith, where do you want to start?
I have a bunch of places I can go with this. I mean, the Minnesota
How many
Vikings.
made you angry, though? How many of these picks made you angry? That's what I want to know.
I think the Minnesota Vikings one. I was like, okay, what are we doing? Like, let's start there. We'll start the Minnesota Vikings, and the reason is that what I mean, you had T.J. Hockenson, right? And I get it that Bowers is on another level, right? Like you can say that, but Hockenson is still a really good football player. Like, it's not like he's a bad tight end. And I just think with this Minnesota Vikings team, right? It's okay. We know we can put up points. You know what I'm saying? The head coach you hired. You know what I'm saying? Like, the offensive weapons you have, Justin Jefferson. Now you have Jordan Addison, like TJ Hockenson. You know we can score points. Now it's about becoming a more well-rounded team, DP. And I don't know if just adding another tight end necessarily makes you a more well-rounded team. So I would like them to address the interior defensive line position, right? Like really invest into that position. I always say this: the Minnesota Vikings are a team that I feel like they're always drafting corners, and they still always need corners, right? Like, so maybe you need to try to figure out that corner position. So the offensive line position, right? That interior offensive line group, making sure that that's a cohesive unit. I just think that there were much different positions that they could have drafted. And even now, in hindsight, DP, I don't know if we've seen a running back yet. But is this a position where you go running back, right? Is this where you go Travion Henderson? And cool, we didn't want to pay Dalvin Cook all that money, but now we have a young guy to grow with, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So now we kind of got that three-headed monster as far as young guys moving forward. So the Vikings pick, I thought I didn't really care for that one. Just not the player, right? Brock Bowers, yeah, he could be in the top 10. It's more so for the team.
No, I'm with you. I'm really with you on this, because the simple fact of the matter is, it's just really difficult to justify it. Like, doubling down, you're going to pay TJ Hockenson a lot of money, and then you're going to draft Brock Bowers, and it's like, where are we going with this? You know, yeah. Not only the stuff that you talked about, but dear God, you need another quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Kirk Cousins.
I didn't even mention that part.
He's serviceable. He's solid. He's a good guy. And I always call him, he's a 20-20 quarterback. He looks really good between the 20s. Get him into the red zone and, stuff like that. So you start to kind of, decision making and everything else is sped up, and, there's some struggles there. But, oh man, for me, there's been a couple picks in here for me as well. Man, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go right here, number 19, to the Chargers selecting Joe Alt. For one, if this happens for the Chargers, stock's already up for Justin Herbert, but stock is really up for Justin Herbert. If you can get Joe Alt and pair him with Rashawn Slater and Jamari Salyer probably kicks down in the guard, and you build yourself a Great Wall of China up there where you can't get through to get to Justin Herbert, right? You're gonna be able to run the ball, you're gonna do all this type of stuff. The thing for me is that Joe Alt fell to 19. Like, I'm just like,
Right.
wow, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
19.
And I agree with you, DP, because I think it was pick 17, Brandon Coleman went the offensive tackle from TCU. And just right now, having watched the film from 2022, right, and moving into this year and ranking these guys somewhat, I don't see in what scenario that happens, right? That Brandon Coleman goes that high. I mean, you know what? And I can't even say I don't see what scenario, because teams do crazy stuff all the time. I just wouldn't prefer it, right? I wouldn't prefer Brandon Coleman going above Joe Alt.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a tough. I haven't gotten eyes on Brandon Coleman just yet, but Joe Alt is really good. He's going to check all the measurables and everything. Strong, good, good nimble athlete on his feet for a 6'8", 315, 20 pound left tackle. But the only thing about this for me now in terms of the fit is who's playing right, because Rashawn Slater's been playing left this entire time in the NFL, right? Yep. And at college. So now you're taking Joe Alt, who's played, who's playing back-to-back seasons, to finish out his college career at left tackle. So who's going to kick over to the right? Because as we all know, like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to just. We've seen it with Evan Neal and some other and other young tackles. You just pull a guy out of a position where he's played his best and tell him to flip his muscle memory and everything else to the opposite side to be dominant in terms of his kick slide, his jump sets, everything else. That's just a very tricky situation that you can get yourself into, Keith. But I will go to 18 real quick, right above.
I was literally just about to bring that up, and I was going to ask you how you felt about Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Malik Neighbors with Kenny Pickett and then that wide receiver core. Like, how does that mesh for you?
I think it meshes well. I don't know. Deontay Johnson, who is their best separator and route runner by far, he's their top guy, right? I think he only signed like a 2-year extension, maybe 3. So he's not there for the long haul. He's not going to be there for another for the next 4 or 5 years unless he re-ups. And I think other teams will come suiting for him because how much separation he can create and be a pivotal piece of our offense. But you got George Pickens, who's on a rookie deal. They got Calvin Austin, who hopefully being healthy, we can see that dynamic player, play this year. But I think what this tells me, Keith, is that Mike Tomlin understands. And let me preface this by saying this is no disrespect and no hate to Kenny Pickett. It's just the fact that he understands I don't have a dude at quarterback. I don't have Josh Allen. I don't have Patrick Mahomes. So what do I need to do? Let me give him as many weapons as possible, right? We have a 2-headed running game. Hopefully the offensive line is solidified now with Broderick Jones and probably kick Dan Moore in the guard and all that good stuff. The offensive line plays well. You got 2 tight ends. I mean, adding another wide receiver, you look at it and you say, Kenny Pickett, if this doesn't help elevate you to really contending in the AFC North, now we're going to have some discussions on coming into the 2025 draft class, whether it's Malik, the Malik kid at Texas, whoever's the next quarterback at that particular time, they may be a Pittsburgh Steeler, because if you give, if you give you give Kenny Pickett more and more weapons, offensive line, and if things still don't get better or reach the plateau, this is because Keith, the Pittsburgh Steelers, think about this. It's very similar to going to a blue blood program in college football. The history, the lineage, everything. You got expectations to handle, man. And if going into year 3 and you haven't met those expectations, a franchise has been in the playoffs, Super Bowls, competing in the AFC North, sometimes being at the top of the AFC North, and you can't get back into that discussion, there could be a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So I looked at this from the perspective, I looked at their wide receiver core, and for those For everyone listening at the Draft Network, the Pittsburgh Steelers were one of my teams. They were in my region. So I probably watched 10 to 12 Pittsburgh Steelers games last year, right? I watched a lot of them, like not just watching the game live, like actual film, right? Like I had to, go through the film. And one thing I noticed with their receiving core, everybody usage was so specific, right? Like George Pickens was a vertical guy, jump ball, right? Deontay Johnson was the slot guy, like you said, best separator. But the question is he a number one? You know what I'm saying? And then you just sprinkle in, what the tight end, Pat Freiermuth and things like that. You just sprinkle in a couple other players to where when I seen the Malik Neighbors thing, I'm like, okay, I like it. I just want to make sure that he's the most well-rounded player because they need a well-rounded guy, right? Like they need a guy that can do it all, that's just not specific in usage because it becomes very, what that player is going to do, right? Like if George Pickens lines up against me and I'm, opposing cornerback, I know how he's going to try to beat me. You know what I'm saying? And George Pickens is a very good football player, but we're just talking about being able to move a guy in different positions and do different things offensively because like we always talk about tendencies, once you get to week 5, week 6, week 7, I mean, defenses know what you're going to do and how you're going to go about beating them, right? So that was only the thing. I think it's an interesting selection. Obviously, need Malik Neighbors to continue to build on it, but he could be that piece to make this group a more well-rounded group moving forward. DP, that wraps up picks 11 through 20, which, I think we were fair about some of the selections, right? Obviously, the Brandon Coleman was not in on that one being that high. The Malik Neighbors, the Brock Bowers. So some interesting selections, but picks 21 through 32 are coming up next.
At number 21, we have the New Orleans Saints selecting Cedric Van Pran, center out of Georgia. At number 22, the Houston Texans, via the trade for Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns, select cornerback out of Penn State, Kalen King. At number 23, the Seattle Seahawks select safety Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. At number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Chris Abrams-Drain, cornerback from Missouri. At number 25, the Cincinnati Bengals go cornerback again with Kalen Carson from Wake Forest. At 26, the Green Bay Packers, via the trade for Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets, take another defensive player, defensive tackle Mason Smith from LSU. Number 27, the Dallas Cowboys select wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. Number 28, the Baltimore Ravens select offensive tackle J.C. Latham from Alabama. And number 29, the San Francisco 49ers select wide receiver Devontae Walker from North Carolina. At number 30, Buffalo Bills select linebacker Smile Munden Jr. Out of Georgia. At 31, the Philadelphia Eagles select wide receiver Daquan Felton from Virginia Tech. And at 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select defensive tackle Jerzon Newton out of Illinois. Keith, I want to kick this off right here at the bottom. Jerzon Newton. To the other 31 teams, good luck. All right. Just good luck. Like if this is the case that you're gonna have Jerzon Newton paired with freaking Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and whoever else they got on the edge and these linebackers, right? And an up and coming young secondary. The biggest things teams had on the Chiefs, it's like, listen, man, we really can't stop Mahomes, but we can score in their defense, though. It's about to get to a point, if this happens, that you're not going to be able to score as much as you think you can on this defense. And if that's the case, if they can hold you to 17, they could put up 42. And that's the scariest part about it, where it starts looking like college games out here in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and those guys. So I think this is a fantastic fit for the Chiefs to get Jerzon Newton, put him, alongside the litany of talent they have in that defensive line. And it's like Justin Herbert, you're going to need Joe Alt and Jamari Salyer and Rashawn Slater. You're going to need all those guys, that on that front line to help protect you. Whoever's playing quarterback for the Raiders, if it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Godspeed, brother. You can't, it's Godspeed. I don't know what to tell you. And Russell Wilson, I mean, that'll be another year older. Does he still have that good athleticism? Still can make plays with his legs? Man, the Chiefs, win the AFC West yet again.
Right. I'm gonna go with the Green Bay Packers. And you kind of mentioned when you was reading it off, taking another defensive tackle, and it just doesn't. I don't even want to say it
Like,
don't make
what
sense.
are we doing?
Yeah, because I mean, because everyone has said this about the Green Bay Packers for the past 10 years, but I think this time even more than ever, right? Because you just drafted Lucas Van Ness, right, who is 6'5", 275 pounds, right? Then you had Devontae Wyatt, who you drafted the year before. You still have, I forget what Clark it is. Is it Frank Clark that they have?
Kenny Clark.
Kenny Clark. I'm sorry. You have Kenny Clark there, right? And so that's them, right? And you have the veteran, and you have two young guys that you've invested, and you just look at this Packers team and say, okay, who else? I potentially go offensive line, right? Like you haven't seen David Bakhtiari as far as his consistency and everything he said, on podcasts. I think he, mentioned some things about Aaron Rodgers and going with Aaron Rodgers or something like that, right? Like just, things where you just don't know, right? So maybe you take a tackle there. I think JC Latham went after Mason Smith, right? I would potentially take JC Latham and plug and play him, because even if you're not with the trends of this NFL, right? Even if you're not sold on Jordan Love, what we've seen is that veterans quarterbacks who are not in winning situations, they're willing to move, right? Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, like these quarterbacks have been on the move. So if you don't feel like Jordan Love is the guy, you still draft pieces, right? Like offensively to fill that thing out so you can become a more attractive suitor for a younger quarterback. I mean, for a veteran quarterback to come in and play, and then now you potentially right back in a Super Bowl run. I don't know if Mason Smith helps you transition. You know what I'm saying? If Jordan Love is not the guy, then also where are you going to play him? Like you're going to have to bump somebody out, either Devontae Wyatt or Lucas Van Ness in that situation. And I mean, you're talking about edges, right? You still have Rashawn Gary, who's coming back, who plays multiple positions, so he's another guy that plays multiple positions. So it's like, where are you going to put these guys on the field? I just want to see you mesh it.
I think the thing, and you said this, off air, and I think on air, at some point, the Green Bay Packers defense got to be top 10. Like,
they have to be. At some point, they have to be. Like, if you're drafting, that's the problem. Like, you keep drafting defensive players. Okay, fine, but show me a top 10 defense. Like, if you're like, these should be Pro Bowl caliber football players.
No, well, without question, they should be Pro Bowl caliber football players. Keith, I want to quickly mention. You talked about JC Latham at 28. I gotta go to 27, man. Them Dallas Cowboys getting wide receiver Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. I love this, man. I love this. He would bring what we expected from Michael Gallup times 2 plus more. Because he's a better route runner, separator, but he's gonna bring that explosiveness to this offense, right? And Brandon Cooks was traded there, but you need. Because CeeDee Lamb is not a traditional outside receiver, vertical threat, especially versus tight man-to-man coverage. He's got ball skills, and I know he's a good route runner, not great. I think his routes are much better versus off coverage than they are versus tight man-to-man, and everything. But you put Emeka Egbuka alongside, you got yourself up in this offense. That's your 1A, 1B, where they're both like right there, and they complement each other so well. Where you think about putting them on the same side of the field, where Egbuka plays outside, and you got CeeDee and CeeDee Lamb in the slot. You could put CeeDee Lamb outside, put Egbuka in the slot, then motion them down into a stack set where you can't really get hands on whoever you're trying to get the ball to, right? Like think about Sean McVay and how he's made Cooper Kupp's life easy for the Los Angeles Rams. It was like, you know what? You're not getting your hands on my top receiver. I'm gonna keep him off the ball, and you can get creative on who and who you want to pinpoint feeding the ball to, Keith. I love this, man. I think this pick could really, and again, similar to Kenny Pickett, Dak Prescott, who we're both fans of, but we understand that why people are critical of him. Dak, if they give you more weapons, them turnovers got to come down, big fella. Them turnovers got to come down, and you gotta answer the bell come postseason. So I love the 27 pick in this mock draft.
Yeah, I would say the heat that's on Dak Prescott, if he doesn't play well this year, who knows who this selection is for, right? Like Emeka Egbuka. And I'm not advocating for getting rid of Dak Prescott. I think he's a solid quarterback, right? Like I just do. I think this Dallas Cowboys team and receiver core is just overhyped year after year to where you think that this team should be performing better, but they usually do what they're supposed to do. When you actually look at their roster, you go position group for position group, rank them amongst the NFL's position group per position group, you're like, for playoff team to get bounced in the first round. Like that's just how they're currently constructed. And the problem is that they never do anything differently. Like they don't go fix their problems, right? They just double down on a situation. I do like the addition of Stephon Gilmore this year, to pair him opposite of Trayvon Diggs. So I agree with you. I like the Emeka Egbuka. And then real quick, the Baltimore Ravens taking J.C. Latham. If J.C. Latham falls to pick 28, insane. And then if the Baltimore Ravens take him again, the Baltimore Ravens just do what the Baltimore Ravens do. Stay put. They watch the film, right? They evaluate the tape. They rank their players. And then when their time comes on the board, they just take the best football player. And it's usually a guy that falls that we like rotted the rest of the NFL not take this selection. So I definitely like that pick too.
The Baltimore Ravens do one thing so well every NFL draft the best player. Like it's just that simple. They do it better than most. They just sit back like, hey man, we ain't drafting top 10. We're gonna sit back and chill. Whatever happens, we're gonna make our decision and we're gonna make it confidently. And they do. And if they can get J.C. Latham to pair with Ronnie Stanley, you talk about giving and you can re-up OBJ. You got Zay Flowers
and Tyler Linderbaum at the center position.
Lamar Jackson back there happy, bro. Lamar Jackson's back there happy, guys.
Definitely crazy, man. Definitely crazy. But AP, that wraps up our mock draft Monday, man. We did picks 1 through 32. Yeah, it's 32 this year. It's not 31 like it was last year because the Dolphins are making a selection this year, right? They didn't do anything.
They're not cheating no more.
Yeah, they didn't do anything to get the draft pick taken, man. But that was a fun one, man. We went through, like I said, our guy from Sports Illustrated went through the mock draft, some names, in rather interesting places, right? And we talked about those. Like we always said, man, we have fun with you guys out every day as we tapping in. It's that summertime vibe. We summertime cool. I hope y'all are enjoying yourselves. I hope that y'all is able to take a vacation. If y'all haven't, man, listen, vacation is just simply a break from what you do in your daily life, right? So if it's an hour drive away, you're trying to go kick it just for a minute, make sure to step away. You spend time with family and loved ones, man. And we appreciate y'all for tapping in with us. Shout out to our everydays.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank y'all for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day, Monday through Friday. Like he said, being the family and being our every single day is we love and appreciate y'all. On tomorrow's show, we're going to get the scouting notebooks going to open up again. We're almost, we're going to cover the cover. We're almost done. We get into them linebackers. We got 3 more defensive groups to hit on. Linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties. We're going to get into them linebackers and tell me why I got probably the top 3 in my region. I'm a happy man because of it. You know what I'm saying? It's a good football to watch. Sorry, Keith. But, guys, in terms of Twitter, you can find and follow Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code. Me, Damian Parson, DP_NFL. Talk to us because we talk back. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.